Hey everybody, this is Kevin here at Ken's Sewing Center. Today I want to talk to you in this video about the Brother sewing machine presser feet. We're going to show you the entire line of Brother presser feet. Now, whether you have a sewing machine, serger, embroidery machine, quilting machine, Brother offers so many more accessories than a lot of the brands that's on the market. When you go to our website at kensewingcenter.com, log in there and you can go to sewing machine feet and then Brother sewing machine feet. I have a way for you to get this free catalog. When you go and search all of our presser feet, this will give you a good idea of all the different attachments that are out there, what machines that they work with. And Brother has so many models of machines. Yours may not be listed within the descriptions. It also may not even be listed in the catalog. That's okay. Brother comes out with more machines quicker than probably any manufacturer on the market. They always have a fresh look. They're always looking to make new machines with new features that our customers are wanting. That's another thing about them. They really listen to our customers, not only when it comes to machines, but when it comes to accessories. If you have questions about, do you have a presser foot that'll work with your model, drop us an email or give us a call. We'll have our email and our phone number right there. Real easy for you because we want to get you the right accessory for the project you're doing. We do have plenty of people at our store that can help you with any accessory, get you the right thing for the job and for your model. So don't hesitate to touch base with us. With most of the SKUs on our website, we do have product videos that we've done showing you how to use these presser feet, what's involved with it. But we want to give you a good close-up view because a lot of the videos don't do that, and show you these feet and kind of give you some of the features of each one of these presser feet, because it's one thing to have a sewing machine, but are you able to do other things with it? And that's the nice thing about Brother. They give you so many tools to be able to enhance your machine, so maybe you don't have to buy a new machine. You just add an accessory and be able to use it. So stay tuned, watch the video. You can fast forward to you get your favorite section, because we'll go over the whole line, whether it's from quilting, heirloom, home deck, they cover it all. The SA107 is a walking foot. And what's a walking foot? Well, a walking foot gives me the ability to work with thicker materials where it's a spongy fabric that the machine is having a hard time stitching it and feeding it, or maybe you're having to skip stitches on thicker materials. Well, the walking foot works with the ratio of the feed dogs that's built into my machine. So here I have a set of this. What's in white is the feed dogs, and it's grabbing the fabric from the top. We'll attach it to the presser bar with the screw that comes with your machine. This is a low shank presser foot, so you'll just attach it that way. If your model's a high shank, then you'll get what's called the Brother SA131 adapter, and this brings it from a high shank down to a low shank. But most of the models that this was going to be working with are some of the mechanical, some of the entry-level models, because this SA107 right here is a 5mm width, and most of those models are going to just do 5mm. Most of your intermediate to the top of the line machines in the Brother line does a 7mm width on your zigzag, so you make sure that the needle doesn't hit the material. This lever here will go over my needle bar, so that's what helps engage the attachment as I'm working and operates this set of feed dogs, and it's going to work in the same ratio to the feed dogs that's going to be under the sole here that's built into your machine to help feed that thicker fabric through. So if I'm working with a thicker piece of material, let's say that I'm working with a quilt, and you know just how spongy a quilt can be. I've got my top, my batting in the bottom. Well, there's a lot of shift right here, and if I don't have something that's stabilizing that material and feeding it all through at one time, I could get skip stitches. I could have my fabric to be puckered, and it's not going to look right. So adding a walking foot is really good for quilting if you're working with garment grade leather, or there's some materials that has a slick finish to it, and the machine is going to have a hard time feeding that. It's going to be slipping onto that fabric. Well, having some stabilization and some feeding on the top as well as the bottom at the same time, it's going to feed all that thick material through at one time. Now, another thing on this particular foot, you'll notice there's a hole right here. What's this hole for? Well, you can get what's called a quilt bar, and that's the model or the part number SA132. The SA132 is a seam guide. It's called a quilt bar. And you can put it into the walking foot and you can measure off a certain seam allowance if you want to get a decorative row of stitching, or you'll make sure you keep your stitching straight on a larger piece of material. This is going to help you to achieve that. You can use this as your guide as you're stitching. And you can move this as close as you want, or you can go all the way out to here. And this will work. You'll see the SA132 come up a few times in this video because a lot of the brother walking feet will have this particular feature, which is a nice feature to have. Now here I've got the SA108. The SA108 is a straight stitch only foot. This one is made for the 5mm models. It has a little bit to do with the clearance here, and this one's a snap-on presser foot. So that's another nice thing about most of the brother machines. You're going to have a snap-on adapter that come with your machine where you can easily pop these feet on and off and interchange with all the other accessories very quickly. So time is of the essence. We're not going to have to worry about that. Now when you're using the SA108, if you'll notice I've got metal here, it's all surrounding just my needle hole here. Make sure you got it on straight stitch. I'm going to have maximum stability on top that's pressing down on the fabric, keeping that fabric flat while the needle's penetrating the garment. So if I'm doing piecing or just want to do rows of straight stitch, you're going to get a lot better quality stitch, and your product's going to look a lot better using the straight stitch only foot. I've got this extra ear here or tab on the front. We can use that as a guide and use that, look at that as I'm sewing right along to keep my straight stitches in a row. So the SA108 is a foot that you definitely want to have for your piecing and just for your straight stitch only sewing. Also we'll have some markings here that I can use as guides as well if I'm moving over. So notice those on the front. Another thing about this foot is you can use it for other things as well. From here to here is 7mm, which is a 1/4 inch. We can use this as a 1/4 inch guide, and the distance between these little markings right here is 2mm. So if I need to use this side of the foot as a guide, I have the best of both worlds here. So do check out the SA108. If you're into putting binding on the edge of a quilt or a garment, you want to have the SA109. This is the binder that brother makes. This is an all metal foot. If you'll notice right here, I have this indentation. If you have anything where it's a quilt, I've seen this done on a lot of different types of garments with a lot of different types of binding and ribbons and things of that nature. Your ribbon is going to go all the way around right here in this circle. So as my fabric is going through the middle that I'm going to attach that binding to, it's automatically folding that material through here as the needle, which is going to be right here, is stitching through the material. Now we do have a detailed product video on the SA109 binder foot on our website, but this particular foot has some other nice features to it. I have a guide right here. From here to here is my guide for measuring my binding. So I make sure that I have it at least this width. It's going to fit perfectly where the binder is going to fold it. My fabric that I'm attaching to goes through here, so I get a perfect binding every time. I don't have to do any other trimming or anything like that. I can adjust the position of that here, but pretty much at the factory these are set just right. But if you do need to move that over somewhat, you can do that with no problem whatsoever. It is a snap-on presser foot. I can easily attach it here. The binder is going to last you for years to come because it is all metal. But for your quilters and those that's doing embellishment of garments, the 109 binder is a great attachment to have and very inexpensive. So do check that out on our website, the SA109 bias binder. This is the SA110 cording foot. Now the cording foot is used for embellishing. You can do 1, 2, 3 cords with this, whether you're doing yarn, smaller cording, you can do it with this particular foot. This little black guide here is going to give just enough pressure onto the cord, and it's going to feed it up under the foot here. So as I'm sewing right along, I've got my 3 cords in a row, and as the machine is stitching, I can do a zigzag or whatever to stitch over that, some kind of a decorative stitch as well to stitch over that, and it'll tack it all down. It's feeding it through all at one time, so it goes onto my garment with no problem whatsoever. The 110 is a snap-on foot, just like all the other feet that you'll see in the brother line, with the exception of some of the specialty walking feet or free motion feet. And then I can use this right here as my guide to keep it straight. So if I'm doing a row of cording, I want to definitely make sure that I get that straight onto my garment. Now this particular foot is what's called the 5mm width. Right here I can actually go out a little bit further, but just make sure that you realize if you purchase this foot, do not go over 5mm in stitch width. Brother does make a 7mm cording foot that we'll get to later on in the video, but if you're attaching down or doing couching, you're able to use the cording foot for that and do a lot of embellishments on different types of garment. Now this presser foot is the SA114. It's called the non-stick foot. Now one thing you'll notice with sewing machine companies, even sewing machine dealers, I find there's a lot of generic terms on the market that they use for different presser feet, even for stitches that you'll find. And I find different manufacturers will call the same foot a different name, but this foot is also known as a non-stick foot. It's known as a smooth foot, a Teflon foot. But basically what this particular foot is going to do for you, it's designed if you're working with leather, vinyls, strange fabrics that has a texture to it that may cause some extra friction and have problems on top for the presser foot may be puckering it. What this is going to do, the bottom of it is super slick, so it's going to slide right over the fabric that you're working with as the machine is tacking down. There's an indentation here as well that helps prevent puckering, your fabric bunching up, and it just slides right over the top of it. This is heavy duty plastic. It's going to last you for many years to come, but I have ability here with this foot. It's a 7mm width. You can use this on all the Brother machines except the snap-on presser feet. So the smooth foot, the non-stick foot, is definitely a foot that you want to have if you're working and sewing on garment grade leather, if you're sewing on maybe even plastics. I've seen customers doing different projects where they're sewing on things like that. Anything that may cause extra friction, you'd want to use the non-stick foot. So check that one out. It's the SA114. Now this is the SA120 gathering foot. Now if you'll notice, this particular foot, it is a low shank. You'll attach it to your presser foot bar. All you owners of the low shank machines, you don't have to worry about any kind of adapter, anything like that. But if you have a high shank machine, most of the Brother high shank machines does come with the adapter that takes it from a high down to a low. That way the presser foot is going to make contact with the needle plate, which is definitely what you got to have for sewing anything. So the SA120, what it allows me to do, and I'll have you zoom in right here, what it allows me to do, I can put a piece of material through this slit right here, and I'm attaching it to the garment, and I have a detailed product video on our website on the SA120, but this is going to allow me to attach it to a piece of fabric. Now this groove right here is what's helping stop the material and gather it. So as I adjust my stitch length, I can make the gathers bigger or further apart. If I want them small, I actually just put my stitch length closer to 0. You may want to get a piece of test material to test that out and see what looks, pretty to you, or the type of material you're working with sometimes may dictate how your stitch length will be. But just keep that in mind. I can adjust my stitch length and they'll be further apart. I can cut the stitch length closer and they'll be, the tacks or the gathers will be closer together, and it'll have a whole different look. So you can play with that with your machine. You're going to be able to use that on any Brother machine. If you need the adapters, we do have those. But the SA120 gathering foot has been in the Brother line for years. But check out the website, because we will have a detailed product video on this particular presser foot. Now, just as we showed you earlier, this is the SA122. This is the non-stick foot. There's no difference in this foot than the one we just showed you, except this particular one is a 5mm width, so it's made for the 5mm width model. So do check that out. The non-stick foot, again, it's going to have the slick coating on the underneath side. If you're working with leather, vinyls, garment that has texture to them, or maybe the foot is slipping on because it's so much friction involved, there's really not a lot of give on the fabric. So what you'll have, the fabric will bunch up and it'll cause you to skip stitches. Non-stick foot is a great addition to have your sewing on leathers and materials like that, because they'll bind up underneath. A metal foot many times will cause that extra friction, but having something that has that slick coating or that non-stick coating underneath is a big plus. It does have a slit right here in the front for the thread to go through, but the SA122, if you have a model it's a 5mm, you want to add that to your sewing collection. Here I have the SA125 1/4" seam allowance foot, or patchwork foot as it's called. This foot has a lot of little neat features to it. It's one of the best selling quilting feet that Brother has ever come out with, because it has a lot on it. One is I have a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here to here, so that width is going to be 1/4 inch. This is 1/8 of an inch. It's all metal foot. If you're using it for just straight stitch only, for your 1/4 inch seam allowances or your 1/8 inch. There's other guides on here, these little markings right here and here. So from here to right here is 4 millimeters. There's 2 millimeters more, 2 millimeters more. So I can use that for getting my seam allowances correct as I'm turning corners and things of that nature. If you're doing piecing or when you're doing your 1/4 inch seam allowances, this SA125 is one of the most popular pressure feet you want to have if you're a quilter. Now I get a lot of questions, and we're going to bring in the SA185 1/4 inch foot. Now there's another difference that you'll notice right here. We have a metal guide or blade. It's going to give me my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I can use that as a guide to keep my fabric to the very edge, so I can make sure I keep everything straight, and it goes all the way to the very back to right where the needle's penetrating the garment. Here I'll have that blade. So the SA185 would be another presser foot you would probably want to have. It's going to have all the same markings on it as the 125, but you get the extra blade. So check those out. Now a lot of the presser feet that we do buy from Brother will come with some instruction booklets. There's other information. We will have tutorials on the website on many of them, and as time has went on, Brother has added a lot of videos talking about the different presser feet on their YouTube channel as well. So you're going to have a lot of information on how to use these presser feet, but if you have questions, we're always glad to help you. We do that every day, so you can always feel free to give us a call. This is the SA126. This is the narrow hammer foot, and this is made for the 5 millimeter width model. So from here to here is going to be 5 millimeters. Check your machine out and make sure that if it does a 7 millimeter, you don't want to get this foot, because you could wind up hitting some of the metal here and doing some damage to your sewing machine. But what this is going to do for us, if you're wanting to do edging, folding over a piece of material, say you want to make some cut off blue jean shorts, or you want to fold over a napkin to make a definite edge, you're able to do that with this particular foot, because what it's going to do right here in this groove is fold it. It's going to fold the fabric over as the needle's penetrating the garment right here, keeping everything flat. It's going to continue to roll that fabric, fold it in two while the needle is stitching right here, and giving that perfect edging to your garment, perfect fold, or that perfect rolled hem, so to speak. Now, it's a snap-on foot, so you can pop it on and pop it off here. Now the SA127 is the next one in the Brother line. You can notice the big difference here. I've got 7 millimeters from here to here. It does the same thing. It's a narrow hammer foot. It's going to give me that roughly 2 millimeter edge that I can do. If your fabric is pliable enough and you can fit it in there and it folds, you'll be fine to use this particular foot for doing your row hemming. And then as it's folded in over, right here it's going to be tacking that particular material down. It's a snap-on foot as well. All metal construction. I have a little groove here as well, so as it's folding it over, it's going to keep that hem flat, because you're going to have two pieces of material that's folded over right here, and you've got that stitching in. It just kind of helps keep everything straight for you, not bunching up on the back side of your presser foot. So this is the SA127 for your 7 millimeter machine owners, 126 for the 5 millimeter machine owners. Now this is the SA129 clear quilting foot. Now this can be used for a lot of different purposes. It is a low shank, screws right onto the presser foot bar, and now I have a spring loaded foot here as I want to do free motion stippling on a quilt top, but maybe you want to darn a hole. You can use this particular foot as well for doing that. If you have a model that's not an embroidery machine and you want to be able to do some free motion embroidery, you can get a chalk pen, draw you off a letter, and with practice with a zigzag stitch, you can do free motion embroidery with your regular sewing machine. Just drop your feed dogs, because you want to drop your feed dogs when you're doing free motion work. You've got the clear front on this particular foot. We have some videos as well on this particular foot, and it's got a guide right here on the front that shows me for my stitch width, so I can make sure as I'm sewing right along I can use this. I can see a lot better with this particular foot. This is the 129. So if you're into quilting, doing free motion, or if you're needing to maybe darn a hole in a piece of material, you'd have this foot for that as well. Now, brother does make several other darning or free motion feet, and we're going to show those to you this time in the video. This is one of the newer ones that's out. This is the SA 187. Now the 187, you can see a big difference already. It's all metal. It's going to be low shank as well, where it screws onto my presser foot bar. If you need that adapter, you high shank owners, just use that, and it screws on right here. But here I have a solid metal piece that's open in the front, 7 millimeters from here to here, so I don't have to worry about if whatever I'm sewing right along. But most of the time you're doing free motion work, you're just using a straight stitch anyway. But I have great visibility right here, plenty of room to work with, and that's this machine also. This foot also is going to give me that ability. It's spring loaded. It's just going to hop up and down as my needle's moving up and down. This particular portion of the foot will rest right onto my needle bar clamp, so it actually helps it to move up and down as I'm doing my free motion work on the machine. Brother also makes the SA 165. It's an all metal stippling foot. It's spring loaded as well. It's low shank as well, so it'll move up and down to do that hopping motion. But the big difference you'll notice here, the head on this, it's a small stippling head. Now, this is 5 millimeters. And be careful if you're using this foot with a zigzag maybe for darning a hole, but a lot of people prefer an all metal stippling head for doing free motion work, because as this is hitting my fabric, it's going to help stabilize that fabric quickly. But everybody has different opinions when it comes to that. All three of these are going to be very good for doing quilting or free motion. Depends on the model that you're working with as well, as far as which one we would recommend for you. But feel free to check out the website. We have a lot more information on all three of these, or if you can give us a call, we can definitely help you pick out the right free motion darning foot that's going to work for your needs. Here I have the SA 133 blind stitch foot. Now this is an adjustable blind stitch foot, and this particular one is going to be made for the 7 millimeter models. From here to here is 7 millimeters. I do like this particular foot because I have this solid white non-stick guide. I have the little lip right here for the edge, and make sure that's what we want to do on the edge of our fabric, that we keep everything straight as we're doing our blind hems. You'll see blind hems. Here I've got the SA 134 blind stitch foot. Now the blind stitch foot, this is an adjustable blind stitch foot. This little silver dial right here allows me to move this guide out, and I can measure over from the edge of this foot if I want to get a certain allowance here. I'm able to do that with no problem whatsoever. This is made for the 7 millimeter models. From here to here is 7 millimeters. So make sure you look in your manual or on your machine, or call us if you need to know what type of machine you have, what stitch width that it'll do, so to speak. This one here is a snap-on, snap-off presser foot. So the blind stitch foot allows me to do a lot of different things because I have this guide right here and it has this little lip. My fabric is going to rest right up against this particular lip here, and I can keep everything straight if I'm doing edge stitching, attaching lace, joining fabric together. It's great for doing all those different things. It works with so many models. All the Brothers snap-on presser feet models you can use this particular foot with it. And because it's all metal right here, I like the guide. It's white, I can see it. It gives me greater visibility. It's very smooth, so my fabric is not going to hang right here or anything like that. It's going to just glide right along as my feed dog just built into the machine is feeding that particular material. And because it's adjustable, I can do so many different things. Some of the companies just make a standard blind stitch foot. It's solid metal. You only have one adjustment and it's already there. There's no way you can move it, but having the ability to adjust that out is great. Now Brother also made for you 5 millimeter owners the SA 134. Now this particular one, it's an all metal foot as well. It's adjustable. Everything on it is metal, but from here to here is 5 millimeters. So just keep that in mind. If you can use this on a 7 millimeter model, but you got to keep in mind to keep your stitch width at 5 millimeters or less. And sometimes we forget to do that, but it's a snap-on, snap-off as well. And this is the SA 134 blind stitch foot. Here I have the SA 135. This is the overlock or overcasting foot. This particular presser foot Kind of helps me, I guess, when you go to the surging stitches that are on your machine or the overlock stitches that are on your machine. You know, there's times that you want to use those stitches when you're, say, overcasting the edging of a piece of material. A lot of the different computerized models, even some of the mechanical models, will give you the double overlock or the single overlock or even a blanket stitch. So as that machine is stitching right along and the stitch is going underneath the foot, it's helping me create that serger-like stitch, but your machine's not trimming the fabric like a serger. You do have a guide here. It's going to help me keep everything straight as I'm going right down the edge of my fabric. So your edge of your fabric that you're wanting to do the overcast on will be right up against this little ear right here. So I can keep everything straight as that machine needle is going over this guide right here, helping me form that double overlock stitch. This particular foot is a 5mm foot. Make sure again you look at what machine you have. That way you don't make sure you don't hit the presser foot. But on the back side, as you can see here, that guide goes all the way to right here, as that machine needle is going to be going over this particular portion of the foot on a double overcast. We have on many of the machines, we'll show you diagrams if you're into that type of thing or you want to buy a sewing machine with this particular function in mind. You can always call us and we can help you and show you what particular sewing machine will have these types of stitches on it. You may not want to go and invest in a serger. You can buy a $20 presser foot if you're just doing this type of stitching just ever so often. So those are things we're here to help you with. You know, yes, we want to sell you a sewing machine, but if all you need is a presser foot, we're going to actually recommend exactly what you need every time. Now here I have the SA140 walking foot. This is probably the most popular walking foot that Brothers has ever developed or come out with. This particular foot, it's a low shank, so from here to my needle, from right here down to my needle plate is going to be for the low shank. If you have a high shank model, just use your high shank adapter and this particular foot is going to work fine. This is a 7mm width foot, so I can do all kind of decorative stitching, quilting. This particular foot is going to help me if I'm working with materials that are hard to feed, because I'm going to have a set of feed dogs built in here and here that's working in the same ratio as the feed dogs built into my sewing machine. This little lever here goes right over my presser foot bar, and as my needle's moving up and down, it's engaging these feed dogs on top, grabbing my fabric, working the same ratio as the feed dogs built into the machine. So a thick quilt, spongy materials that have a slick finish to them, that are very hard, even thicker materials, you'd want to add a walking foot to help feed all that particular material at one time. Now, Brother, as time has went on, they've listened to customers and things that they want to have on a walking foot, and they came out with the SA188. That came out later. You'll notice a big difference going to the SA188. I've got all open right here, whereas on the 140 there's all metal. Some people like the all metal because I've got more metal touching my material. Others like greater visibility because right here I still have the 7mm width, but I've got more visibility right here. Does the same thing, same quality attachment, but you got a lot greater visibility. And this is the SA188. So as time has went on, Brother does listen to their customers, and they came out with the SA101 dynamic walking foot. The dynamic walking foot is going to give me both of these presser feet or attachments into one attachment. Now this is all metal construction. It's built a lot more solid. It's a little bit more pricier because of that, but I do have two different soles. This here is the standard sole. This is the open toe sole. So they were going to give you, and this pops onto the attachment right here. I have the standard sole, and then I also have the open toe. So if I need to go back and forth, and there's times I want to go back and forth, I'm able to do that on the SA101 dynamic walking foot. Now all three of these attachments does have the ability for me to add the SA132 quilt bar, which is, we showed you earlier in the video, the quilt bar allows me to go right in here, and I can measure over and get a certain seam allowance. Now another thing about the quilt bar, most of your snap-on adapters that came with your sewing machine will have a little place on the back side of that adapter, just look very similar to this here. and this will slide into that as well. So many of the attachments, brother thinks about it as they are manufactured machines, and they'll make a lot of these things compatible, so it'll just enhance. You'll be able to do a lot more with your sewing machine. So if you're into quilting, heavier sewing, you'd want to consider one of these 3 attachments. Now, the dynamic walking foot, there's another thing that you can get for it, and as time goes on, I feel like brother will include and come out with more different soles that will interchange with this, but you can get what's called the SA215. This is the interchangeable toe set for the dynamic walking foot. These particular soles will go and pop right onto the attachment with no problem whatsoever. This is the stitch in the ditch. So if you'll notice this guide here, if you're into ditch quilting, this helps you keep everything straight and you stay in that ditch as you're quilting right along. This one here is going to be the 1/4 inch sole. So I have this guide here, and I can use this to get a 1/4 inch seam allowance as I have the walking foot attached to the machine. So this gives you the best of both worlds. You can add this at any given time. Check out the SA215 interchangeable set for the dynamic walking foot. It will only work on the dynamic walking foot. Here I have the SA141 braiding foot. Now the braiding foot is going to do a lot of things for me. If you're into home deck and embellishment, if you want to add ribbon, different yarns, you can add that with this particular foot. Now, I've got a video on our website that'll show you attaching that to fabric, but this little screw right here loosens, so if I need to adjust this plate out, I'm able to do that with no problem whatsoever. Depending on the braiding or the cording that I'm attaching, the thickness of that, I can move this in or out, and that helps me achieve what I'm wanting to do. It's a snap-on presser foot. It's going to work with all the snap-on models that brother makes. Snaps on right here, but the braiding foot is one. If you're doing something like adding cording, ribbon, different braiding tapes to a piece of material, you're able to do that up to 5 millimeters in width. So check out the SA141 braiding foot. This is the SA142 fringe foot. Now what the fringe foot is going to do for you, here I have this metal bar right in the middle, and this is going to work on all the snap-on models, but if I put this on the sewing machine and I start doing a zigzag, the needle's going to come up and over this bar. So if I want to, say I'm doing a flower on a piece of material and I want the petals of the flower to really stand out, it have a fluffy, almost a 3D appearance, that's what this particular presser foot is going to do for you. It lets you add a little bit of pizzazz to a certain portion of the garment that you're working with. So if I'm doing some heirloom sewing, a lot of my heirloom people really like this because I'm able to add a little bit of decorative effect to the piece of material that I'm working with. Where you're doing custom trims, just doing simple zigzag stitches on this particular foot is all you've got to do, and it's really going to make a big difference. It's going to set that portion of your project out. It's going to stand out for you. So the fringe foot is really easy to work. We do have a video just showing you exactly how this particular foot works, but adding this particular one, this is one of the most popular feet that brother makes. It's been in their line for several years, the SA142 fringe foot. This is the SA144 Clearview foot. The Clearview foot is made for the 5 millimeter models. You'll notice it's all plastic, and it's just like the name says, it's a clear view. I've got plenty of room here to see. It's all see-through clear plastic, but you that are in quilting, appliquers really like this because I can see what I'm doing as the needle is penetrating the garment. I can see what's going on underneath. Now brother also made this same foot for those of you that has the 7 millimeter models, the SA145, and it's going to be basically the same exact presser foot, except from here to here is going to be 7 millimeters, so I don't have to worry about stitching through it. I've got a lot of visibility right here, and then I've got this piece of plastic here is actually coming in contact with my fabric. So if I'm doing an applique on a lighter weight piece of material, this is touching my fabric, keeping it flat as my needle is penetrating my garment. Everything is feeding this way, so I don't have to worry about any puckering, and I can see what I'm doing. I've got greater control over my fabric. SA144 for the 5 millimeter owners, SA145 for you 7 millimeter owners. Now, some people prefer a metal open toe foot. This is the SA146. This is the metal open toe foot. It's going to have a very slick finish to it about feeding your fabric. Here underneath I've got a little groove, so if I go up over a seam, it just keeps the fabric from bunching up or gathering on me and putting the fabric in a bind right here at the needle. So that SA146 is going to give me the 5mm opening right here. So if you need something larger than that, if you have a model that's 7mm, you want to definitely make sure you get the SA186. So I can see from here to here is going to be 7mm in width. I have some markings here that will come with some instructions if I'm turning a corner, if you're doing applique work. These are really nice presser feet to have, so I can see what's going on right here. I've got metal on contact with my fabric. It's not going to bunch up or gather the fabric unless you're working with a garment grade like a leather or a material that may have a little bit of a sticky or a fabric that causes a little bit more friction. Then you may want to add that smooth foot. But here for our applique work, I've got plenty of room right here to worry about. I don't have to worry about the needle hitting my presser foot because I've got 7mm here, which is the maximum stitch width for any brother sewing or embroidery machine that's out there. So pick up one of these if you're into applique or quilting, or you just want to be able to see better. You can use this with all the decorative stitches that are on your machine. If you like having greater visibility right here and you're watching your needle and the machine stitching right here, this is a great presser foot to use all the time for those of you that wants that greater visibility. So the SA146 for you 5mm owners, SA147 for the 7mm owners. The SA146 for you 5mm owners, SA186 for you 7mm owners. Now this is the SA149, the picot foot. And the picot foot allows me to do and works with 5mm models. This allows me to do a row hem, a row edge, and a hem stitch at the same time. The picot, it kind of looks similar to a narrow hemmer foot, but it's designed to give you that shell edge. A lot of the different machines will have the picot stitches on it, those types of stitches built into them. This is going to give me that perfect stitch formation. As the machine, as I feed my fabric right in here and it's rolling it over, those two pieces of material is rolling it over, and the machine is going to be stitching it down right here. On the back side of this particular presser foot, I've got a groove, so my finished product, those two pieces of material that's folded over, they're going to be resting right here and feeding right along perfectly, so I can keep everything straight and I'm not binding that edging, which will definitely make your garment look just terrible. But basically I'm able to fold all that at one time as the machine is stitching the fabric. It's gonna, that groove on the back side is just such a big help. It's going to help you feed all that at one time and you not have to worry about it binding up on you. So it works with all the snap-on models. Just, you know, pay attention again on the stitch width. His brother does make another foot. It's called the SA164, and that's going to be the picot foot for your 7mm models. I have the SA149 for you 5mm owners, but brother also makes the SA164, and this is going to be for those of you who has the 7mm models. You can see how the difference in the size here. This is going to be a bigger opening. It does the same exact thing. If you're working with a lighter weight material, it's going to give you that shell look on your edging. It's a different look than just doing a standard hemmer, standard row hem. But right here is where that fabric is going to feed through, and the material is going to be bound together, those two layers of material, and right here is where the stitch, the needle will penetrate the garment. So on the back side you've got this groove that's keeping everything straight for you and it's feeding it right along. It's just going to help you so much keep everything flat. So if you're into embellishment, you want to take a look at the two different picot foot that brother makes for all the snap-on models. Another really neat presser foot that you want to take a look at is the SA150. This is the pearl and sequin foot. If you want to put in chains of pearls, chains of sequins, you can do that up to a 4mm size chain of pearls or chain of sequins. All your fabric stores now will have those different things you can add and attach to garments to embellish different things. You can do that on any sewing machine. Now, this particular foot is a snap-on foot. It's solid, clear plastic, so it's for greater visibility. And you want that as you've got that row of chain or purl that's feeding right along. You won't be able to see what's going on the front side and on the back side. If I flip this foot over, you can see I have a huge groove built in right here, and I'll zoom in on the front sides. You can see just how big the groove is on this particular foot. So it's going to accommodate all the big row of chain of purl or sequins through here. So the SA150 allows us to add all those larger cords to a particular garment. You can also do different things, like if you had a larger piece of piping, you could use it as well to attach that. Just because this is such a bigger foot, you can kind of stretch it out and use it to do that as well. So check out the SA150 sequin piping and sequin foot. If you're into embellishing, you want to add the SA157 or the SA158 to your arsenal. The SA157 is a 5-hole cording. You can add up to 5 strands of cording at a time. I will have a video on the website showing how that's done. You just feed up to 5. You don't have to use all 5, but you can feed up to 5. It is available and works with all the Brother Snap-on presser feet models, or if you want to go up to 7 cords, you can get the SA158 and be able to do it as well. So a 5-hole or the 7-hole is the way to go. It just adds so much pizzazz and flair to the garment that you're working with. Being able to change it up, you may not want them all in a row. You can play with this and put the cording in different holes to see how it's going to look on your garment. Try some test runs to see the spacing. It'll make a big difference. You can change that up to your liking. So the SA157 5-hole cording foot or the SA158 7-hole cording foot is compatible with all the Brother Snap-on presser feet for embellishing. Now, this is the SA160 stitch guide foot. Now, the stitch guide foot allows us to do change of stitches, keep them a certain width apart. We can use this guide to help us. It's incremental market here, and I can use this with all the different snap-on presser feet. It does up to a 7-meter width here. If I'm doing a decorative stitch, or if I just want to do a straight stitch, I can use this particular guide here all along the way to do decorative stitches and keep my stitches in rows a certain width apart. The SA160 stitch guide foot is a great foot to have. The stitch guide foot has markings here. They're incrementally spaced apart. So if I want to get a certain seam allowance, if I'm doing stitch rows, I want to keep those rows a certain width apart. I'm able to do this all on the foot. This is all metal foot. It's a snap-on foot. It's going to work with all the Snap-on Brother models. I have this extra guide here on the front that really will help me if I'm going along the edge of a piece of material, or just to help me keep everything straight as I'm sewing right along and I'm having to move that foot over to get a certain seam allowance. The SA160 is definitely a great way to go. This particular foot has been in the Brother line for years and years, and Brother listens to their customers, and they came out with the SA189. Now the SA189 is the same, basically exact foot. It's going to have the red markings here, and it just gives us greater visibility as I'm stitching right along. If you'll notice, there's red marks here where my needle is going to be real close to, so I can help keep everything lined up. So either one does the same job. You just got greater visibility on the SA189 vertical stitch foot. Here I have the Brother SA167. This is the straight stitch foot, and it's made for the 7mm model. So if your machine's 7mm, this is definitely one you want to have. It's a little bit bigger foot than previous straight stitch feet, so you're going to have more presser foot touching your fabric. And generally when we're doing piecing, or we're just doing straight stitch only, the fabric is going to be lightweight, so you definitely want to have more presser foot touching the top of that fabric. Helps keep your fabric flat as the needles penetrating the garment. I do have some markings right here. These are 2mm apart. From here to here is a 1/4 inch, so we also can use that to get our 1/4 inch seam allowance. So do check out the SA167 straight stitch foot for the 7mm models. Here I have the SA162. This is the 5-groove pintoke foot. If you're into heirloom sewing, embellishment on dresses, maybe on napkins and things of that nature, you can use the deep groove 5-groove foot here. This is a snap-on foot. We can easily pop it on and off. And Brother also makes a more narrow, what's called the 7-groove pintoke foot. This is the SA179. You'll notice here there's more grooves and they're closer together. Now on the SA179, this is made for the 7mm models. The SA162 is for the 5mm models. On the SA179, you're going to get the bobbin case cover. Now do check on the website of models that this is compatible with, because what you're going to be able to do is corded pintokes. Get you a twin needle, install into your machine. Make sure that you get the correct width for what you want to do. And most of your pintokes, you're going to want a real small twin needle. Put your machine on center needle with the twin needle in your machine, and then if you want to do a corded, run some cording here, it gives a definite body or edge, some texture to your pintoke. Sometimes you want to have that and sometimes you don't. You can use the standard bobbin case cover that's on your machine if you don't want to do corded pintoke. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the SA162 or the SA179 pintoke foot. Brother also has made a deep groove pintoke foot for the 7mm models. It's the SA194. It's going to give you the bobbin case cover will come with it for doing running the cording through if you want to, but you have the big deep grooves for doing your heirloom and your embellishing. Get you that twin needle, put it in the center needle position, and you're going to be able to do a 5-groove pintoke with this particular foot. It's compatible with all the 7mm models that does and has the snap-on, snap-off adapter. Now, one of the main reasons you purchase a sewing machine is you want to be able to install zippers. And that creates a problem many times because a zipper has plastic or metal parts, and you've got a needle that's getting close to those plastic or metal parts, and you don't want to damage your machine. Well, Brother's got you covered with the SA102. It's the concealed zipper foot. Now, with what you're working with on a concealed zipper foot, on the bottom side of that foot, we have this deep groove here. So that long chain of teeth on a zipper, you want that to ride right here, and then you have the fabric that that zipper is attached to that you're going to stitch in right here. That way you can get the presser foot right up on that metal or the plastic zipper, and the needle will penetrate and go right up against it. Because we have the groove on the back side that's keeping everything straight and neat, it's going to allow me to be able to stitch right up on that zipper, and I don't have to never worry about my needle touching or hitting any of that metal part of the zipper. I do have this guide here in the front. It's going to give me some greater visibility and help me before this starts feeding in here, keep everything straight as that needle is penetrating the garment. Because as you can see, I'm only going to have the machine on a straight stitch because it's going through this into the fabric that's right up against that zipper. So the SA102, the concealed zipper foot, that is a great foot to have. There's times I want to be able to do other things, and I still want to be able to install zippers, but maybe I want to get my needle right up against some piping or cording, but I also want to put in zippers. So the SA161 is an adjustable zipper or piping foot. It's a low shank attachment. We'll screw this on to our presser foot bar here. If you have a high shank model, just use your adapter and I'll bring it down so that the zipper foot is touching your fabric. So what I can do is I can loosen this little screw right here, and then I can move the position of my presser foot over. So let's say that this half moon here, this is where my needle is going to go. And if I've got a zipper or I want to get up the edge of a piece of cording or piping, I can actually move this particular part of the foot over left or right of where my needle is. I can get it right up on it, and then all I have to do is just snugly tighten this down, and I never have to worry about this guide coming off. So if I'm working with a zipper and that metal part or the plastic part of a zipper, we want that needle riding right up against that here. So I don't have to worry about the needle hitting that metal part of the zipper, and I won't damage anything on my machine. If I'm putting in a big thick piece of cording or piping, I'm able to do that, and it rests right up against the edge of that. So this needle is going to go right where my half moon is, which is going to be plenty enough distance away, but right up close and against that zipper or the cording or the piping that I'm wanting to do. This has been a very versatile attachment that Brother's come out with. Most people will have a zipper foot that come with their machine. This is going to give you the ability to do so many other things with it. So you may want to check out that SA 161, the adjustable foot. And as I've already said many times, Brother listens to their customers and things that they want to have. Most people that has a sewing machine is going to want to put in a zipper from time to time, but the thing about zippers is it creates a problem in that we've got metal getting really close to our needles and we don't want to hit that. I understand that. The narrow zipper foot has a narrow head on the front. So here I have the half moon cut out here. Everybody that has a sewing machine with adjustable stitch width, we can move the position of our needle over by hitting the width button, and I can get my needle right up on the zipper or the cording or the piping that I'm working with. This is a snap-on, snap-off foot. Sometimes we don't want to take the time to have to attach this particular presser foot. Now I can use the narrow zipper foot and just snap it on and off and go about my business, put in my zipper, and then go on to other projects. Check out the SA 208, the narrow zipper foot. Another reason most people purchase a sewing machine is to do top stitching with it. Well, these are some of the newer attachments Brother has come out with for doing top stitching. This is the SA 103 bi-level presser foot with the guide on the right. Now we'll notice here on this foot I have different markings here. I can do a 1.5, I can do a 5mm marking, and then I have the 8.5 millimeter marking here. This is a snap-on presser foot. It's made for the 7mm model, so I don't have to worry about the needle hitting the foot anywhere. The SA 103 bi-level foot. Now they also made this particular one in the SA 104 bi-level foot, and the guide is on the left hand side. So depending on what you're embellishing, depending on what you're doing your top stitch on, the orientation of that, you can go either or with these particular presser feet. Do check the website out because we've got more information with different visuals on these two presser feet to see which one is going to work for the type of top stitching you're doing. Here we have the SA 184. This is the edge joining foot. If you're wanting to join two pieces of fabric together, the SA 184 is the foot you want to have. It's a snap-on presser foot. It works with all the 7mm models. We have a guide right here on this particular foot that lets me, when I have the left hand side and the right hand side of my fabric and I want to join those together, it helps me keep everything straight right here, and that's where my needle is going to penetrate the garment, attaching those two pieces of material together. The SA 184 has been one of the most popular presser feet. We have literally sold thousands of these over the years. It's been in the Brother line for quite a long time now. We'll have detailed instructions that comes with the SA 184. It's a solid metal foot, and it's going to last you for many years to come. The guide on it is secure. You're not going to have to really worry about bending that out of place. So if you're wanting to attach two pieces of material together side by side and keep everything straight, the SA 184 is the foot to have. The SA 190 roller foot is a great presser foot to have if you're having problems with fabrics feeding, like if you're working with lighter weight materials, or if you're working with leathers, elastic, velvets, things of that nature that gives problems with the presser foot hanging on it or bunching it up, wadding the fabric up, puckering the fabric. What this particular foot has, it has little wheels on it. On the bottom side here, all this is smooth plastic, but we have all these wheels here that's actually going to roll over the fabric. So your fabric is not going to hang on this particular presser foot. Everything underneath here is very smooth. This one is made for the snap-on models, and you have 7mm width stitch width here. So it's going to work on all the Brother presser feet models. So if you're working with fabrics that are hard to feed and you're having a problem with that, and then you want to add that roller foot, you'll never have to worry about it again, because it's going to roll up and over. If you're going over a seam on these materials, maybe on one layer, those feet are going to allow, those wheels are actually going to just let you roll on, and you don't have to worry about the fabric bunching up or puckering on you, and you're going to get such a better stitch quality, and the appearance of your garment is going to be so much better as well. So the SA 190 roller foot is the foot you want to take a look at if you're having those problems. If you're wanting to do pleats or ruffles in the fabric, you want to take a look at the SA 565 ruffler. Now the ruffler foot is a snap-on attachment. Now don't let this particular attachment intimidate you. This is going to make adding pleats, gathering ruffles to your garment so much easier, and it works with all the 7mm snap-on models. I'm able to snap that foot on right here. Now I can adjust the width of my pleats. These are in millimeters, 1, 6, and 12, and I just move this little bar over to get the different lengths on the ruffles, in between the ruffles. It's going to gather that up as the needle is stitching through it. So I have a 1mm, 6, or 12mm increments in between that I'm able to stitch through and create those nice ruffles, those nice pleats. Now we will have a detailed product video on this particular attachment. It is a little bit more in depth and involved than most of the brother attachments, but rufflers have been on the market for years now. I've been here over 25 years myself. There's always been rufflers out, but brother has redesigned this to snap on and off. Before you'd have to screw it on to the presser foot bar, but I don't have to do that anymore. Here I can just use it and snap it on to my presser foot bar right here. The adjustments are very easy on this particular attachment. Now it's all metal, so this is going to last you for many years to come. I don't have to worry about anything breaking on it because it is metal. I can do a lot of adjustments here with this particular foot. This portion right here is going to rest on my needle bar clamp, and that's what's going to help as the machine is stitching. It's going to be moving up and down, so if I have this set for my different lengths, it's actually going to wait and it's going to gather it as my needles penetrate in the garment. It'll wait 6 more millimeters, snap, and it goes down again. If I have it set on 12, it actually will gather everything up for 12 millimeters, and it'll go right down in to tack that down so my ruffles are bigger. If I want them smaller, then you go either the 1 or the 6. If you're wanting to attach bias binding to your material, then you want to get the adjustable bias binder foot. This is the SA198 adjustable bias binder foot. It's a snap-on presser foot. This is compatible with all the brother models that uses a snap-on adapter. Now we can adjust this here, and on the front of this particular attachment gives me a lot of information. There's a lot of different widths that we can do. We can do from a 1/4 inch bias binding all the way up to 3/4 inch. So 1/4 inch is about 6 millimeters up to the 20 inch, which is going to be 3/4 of an inch. It's going to feed everything through for me, and it's adjustable. I just screw this over and I'm going to know exactly where I'm at on my guide here. I've got the 7mm width here. All this is metal. It's going to feed through really smoothly. But what this is going to do for me, right here is where my fabric's going to go, and then I put my binding around and it folds it all over for me at one time. As that fabric is going through, the needle's going to be penetrating my garment. Everything is folded, stitched at one time right here. So as I continue on, it's going to continue to add that binding to my garment. If I need to do a different width, I'm easily able to do that with no problem whatsoever on this particular presser foot. So do check out, we'll have more information on the website on the SA198 bias binder foot. It's compatible with all the 7mm snap-on brother models. If you're having trouble getting a certain seam allowance on your particular garments or projects, you want to add the SA538 seam guide. Now the seam guide, what it does, if you'll notice on your bed of your sewing machine, on your needle plate, there should be a place routed out for a screw to go. Check that out. If you have problems or you don't see that on your model, give us a call. But basically what we do is we screw that down onto our presser foot bar, and then I have these different markings here. So let me turn it around so you can see. I will be able to do a 5/8, a 1/2, or 1/4 inch marking. I screw that down where I want it to go, and it's locked in place. It's not going to move. And then I use the guide right here to rest my fabric right up against. I don't have to worry about that moving on me, so I can get that true seam allowance that I'm wanting to work with. This one's going to be compatible with a big majority of the brother models that's on the market, but do check your needle plate. Make sure you see that little place where you can actually, it seems like it's routed out. It's actually threaded for a bolt to go in or a little screw. That's what this is for. Now the SA538, from different production runs, sometimes this knob will be a different color. I've seen them orange, I've seen them white and green, but you want to look for a genuine brother attachment, and that's what this is. And Ken Sewing Center carries and sells all the genuine brother accessories and parts. If you're wanting to attach piping or cording to your garment and you need to do a little bit larger, the SA192 piping foot is the one you want to get. This is another snap-on accessory. It works with all the 7mm models, but it has the really deep groove on the back side. So if you're working with a bigger piece of piping, you're going to be able to attach that and keep everything straight as that needle's penetrating and tacking on that piping that you're working with. This is a newer Brother attachment that's on the market. It's compatible with all the 7mm models, all the snap-on models as well, and you're going to get the best of both worlds. Being able to see what these guys are right here, you would feed in your piping here. The grooves, the deep grooves on the bottom side of that is going to keep everything straight as the needle is tacking that on right here. So check out the SA192 piping foot. Now, ruler foot sewing has become one of the most popular quilting applications I've seen in many years, and there's been several companies come out with ruler feet. And what is a ruler foot? Well, if you have a ruler that you're working with, we'll just say this is a ruler that I'm working with, and I want to get a straight line on top of a quilt, I'm able to have my ruler foot. I don't have to worry about it hopping overneath because I've got a really thick head on this particular foot. Now this will screw on to the pressure foot bar, and it's going to be stable. It's not moving anywhere, so I can rest that up against and get a straight line, and I can actually do diagonal line sewing or whatever it is you want to do. There's so many different types of rulers that are on the market now. Dozens and dozens of companies have come out with different ruler feet. So Brother has come out with their own line of ruler feet. Now this is the low shank version here, which is the SA218, and then I have the SA219. Here I have the SA218, which is the high shank version, and then I have the SA219, which is going to be the low shank version. You can see here the differences in shanks. This may help you as well if you're determining whether your machine is a high shank or low shank particular machine. Notice on the high shank how this is setting up a little bit higher than on the low shank version. So check out your manual, see what you have, or just give us a call. We can definitely help you pick out the right ruler foot for the type of machine that you have. But that ruler foot is going to allow us to rest that foot up against the rulers that I'm working with. I don't have to worry about as I'm sewing along it's going to hop over it because I've got this guide. This is going to be basically just about resting right on top of my fabric as I'm moving right along here, and my ruler going up against it. I don't have to worry about doing any damage to my machine. It's going to glide right up against that. So check those out, the Brother ruler foot line. There's many more attachments that Brother makes on the market, and Ken Sewing Center is going to carry all those. Do check out the website again. Download your free manual. We're going to include a lot more information as time goes on. If Brother comes out with a new pressure foot, we're going to carry it. We have product knowledge behind all the pressure feet and attachments. We carry all parts and accessories for all the Brother models. So I have plenty of people at my store that can help you determine and pick out which pressure foot is right for the sewing application that you're doing. So never hesitate. Check out our website for more detailed product videos on all the Brother accessories.